Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Give us a second here to see who's gonna show up. Let's see who we have here. Can't really look because I'm driving, but I do see some people popping up.
It's a...
We'll do a little Econ 101 conversation. Let's see who we connect with in this conversation. Give it a moment. Like I said, I've been dealing with a little bit of shadow banning by Facebook, so we'll see how many people they're actually going to talk, send notifications out to on this one. But anyway, what's going on, y'all? Happy Monday. And how y'all doing? So I was checking out a few things. Just the way my mind works, and I like nice things. I have a few nice things, nowhere near as many nice things as I'd like to have, but I have a few nice things. But those nice things don't have me. And I'm pretty certain that as I acquire more nice things, those nice things still won't have me, because I understand that they're just things. That being said, it's a very interesting topic for Econ 101. And you can get into a little bit of moralism on that, because there's a lot of people who would have you to believe that there's something inherently wrong, because there's people who will they'll look at the Bible. It's always funny, the people who are the most leftist minded will try to reference the Bible in this case, right? And they'll take things out of context, where it says that it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. And there's a whole nother discussion, a theological discussion, about what that meant. Was it literally, in this case, a passing through the eye of a needle like you use with the needle and thread, or was it allegedly the eye of the needle, which was someplace supposedly in the wall of Jerusalem that was a small wall, and a camel had to kneel down to get through it? I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who would have you to believe that somehow you're going to hell if you have X amount of wealth. Now, I've never met anyone who could tell you definitively, never met a theologian, never met an economist, never met anybody who could tell you definitively what too much is. Specifically, I guess, sticking to theology, what was the magic number? What is the magic number that God is sitting up there on high and saying, I'm keeping an eye on you, buddy, and the moment that you acquire X amount of wealth, you just kept yourself out of heaven? I would have let you in if you had, let's say, for example, $999,999.99. But doggone it, you messed around and acquired that one extra penny, and that was the magic number that kept you out of heaven. If you had just stayed one penny below, you would be in heaven, but you missed it just that much, right? I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous thing when people try to make that assertion. What I've found for most people, they really think that too much is anything more than what they have. $1 more than what they have is too much money. And I'll tell you a quick side story before I get into the meat of the topic I was going to talk about. One of my aunts, rest her soul, my dad's baby sister, well, actually one of my dad's sister, she would have these, she's a little bit of a social justice warrior, love her to death, she's my favorite aunt, but, she would say that, the rich need to be paying more, right? And I'll never forget my dad telling me about a conversation that he had with, because my dad's the oldest, with the conversation he had with his sister who's right below him. regarding a conversation she had with the baby sister. And once again, rest her soul, my dad's little sister has gone on to the next life. She passed away, unfortunately, from cancer, but she was pretty much on welfare most of her life. And I'll never forget, when she was going through some struggles, she said to my other aunt, her older sister, well, you have more than me, so you should have to help me more. She literally said that. And so my older aunt was like really taken aback by this idea that someone would say to her, because she never saw herself as having a lot, but the fact that someone, especially a family member, would say to her, you have too much or more than I do, you should have to give more to me. Now, we all know that that aunt pretty much stayed on welfare her whole life, even though no one else in the family, none of the other 6 siblings, spent time on welfare. Everybody in my dad's side of the family had a great work ethic, except for that baby aunt, right? The younger aunt, right? But it was just fascinating that here it was, the older aunt, kind of bought into that whole idea of the rich are not paying their fare, so on and so forth. But all of a sudden, here it is, her little sister tells her, well, you have more than me, so you should have to give more to me. Even though here it was staring in her face, she knew that her little sister was nowhere near as productive as she is. So that's always a fascinating thing. And so once again, for people, it really is, when people try to get sanctimonious about someone having too much, they pretty much always define it as someone having like $1 more than what they have. So with that in mind, we come up to the whole idea of trickle down economics, which, by the way, no economist, especially no conservative or Austrian economist ever uses the term trickle down economics. It's just economics. So, for example, if somebody purchases a product, good, or service, regardless of the price, so, you start up company X, small business X, store X, right? And you're selling whatever, it could be a dollar store, right? You're selling products, goods, and services, introducing products, goods, and services into the marketplace. And guess what? If you own a business, you actually put a markup on those products. You most likely did not manufacture those products, but you're selling those products. You're actually providing them at a convenient, in a convenient manner, hopefully at a reasonable price to the marketplace. So it doesn't matter whether it's the dollar store or whether it's Neiman Marcus, or as some people call it, needless markup, right? At the end of the day, you're still providing a product, good, or service to the marketplace, and you're actually trying to make a profit, because if you're not, you're kind of stupid. I mean, a side note, literally, there was a guy, he said, I had to laugh. I remember he's still a Facebook friend. I remember him saying years ago that we need to focus more on social commerce and not focus on making a profit, just focus on having businesses where we can employ people. And I'm like, you're stupid. I mean, seriously, that's it. You don't understand Econ 101, and you're a moron, and your ideas will fail miserably. It's just kind of, like here in the DC area, you have either big corporations, right? Many of them who are providing services into the marketplace, or you have these associations, these non-profit. Everybody thinks they're so wonderful because they work for a non-profit, but non-profit doesn't mean that they don't turn a profit. I mean, you understand that a profit is anything above and beyond your basic operating costs. It just means that they're not seeking to rake as much profit as possible, but they still make a profit. If they didn't make a profit, they wouldn't be able to stay in business. No business stays in business for long without making a profit. So it's kind of this ridiculous idea that a supposed non-profit is so much more moral than a for-profit business. But the whole idea that if you own a yacht, or a private airplane that, you know, like you're somehow taking advantage of people. I was watching this video and it was talking about the cost, because I like, once again, I like nice things. I don't think I would ever own a yacht, even if I had the money, because I just don't know if I really see myself. I would own a private jet in a heartbeat. Literally, I would use it. Like, I'm in my car right now. When I have the money, which it is in my game plan, it's in my 10-year goals. When I have the money to afford a private jet, you bet your butt. I was going to say something else. You bet your butt I'm going to own a private jet, at least fractional ownership of a private jet, because I hate going to the airport. I hate being molested by TSA. I mean, we go to the airport, they check Tanya's hair, right? I mean, it's just, I hate having to take off my shoes. You know, you go through the trouble of getting dressed and everything like that, and then you go to the airport, you go through TSA, I got to take off my belt, take my wallet out, take my keys out, take all that and everything like that, pat myself down multiple times and make sure that I haven't forgotten anything, so I can walk through there with my hands up in the air, and they can have the scanner check me out, so they can say, you're clear. Now I get to get dressed again before I get on a flight that's crowded and there's people sitting next to me and somebody's baby's crying and somebody's coughing or farting or whatever like that next to me, and I hate all that with a passion. So you bet, when I have the wealth that I can afford to fly private, will I do it in a heartbeat, for the same reason why I drive my car and have for years, rather than taking public transportation. In some cases, would public transportation have been more convenient, probably even cheaper? Yes, I could have taken public transportation to and from work in downtown DC for a reason, but I spent a lot of extra money to have the convenience of being in my car. So you know what, when it was cold, when it was wet, when it was hot, whatever like that, I always knew that when I got off from work, I could get into my vehicle and the temperature was going to be exactly what I wanted it to be. The music would be exactly what I wanted it to be, or lack thereof. Or the seat was going to be as comfortable as I wanted it to be because it was mine. And that's the reason why I paid additional to park my car in downtown DC. A lot of extra money, by the way. I paid additional money to park my car in downtown DC for years for that convenience. And I'm no different than you, because you pay for convenience also. You might not realize it, but there's plenty of things that you do for convenience. Have you ever gone through the drive-thru at McDonald's? You did that for convenience. It's cheaper to eat at home. It's healthier to eat at home, but you took your behind through the McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever like that drive-thru because you made the decision, you made the Econ 101 decision at that point in time that it was more worth your time or hassle or peace of mind to go through the drive-thru at you name the fast food restaurant than it was for you to go home and have to go through the hassle of preparing a meal. That's called Econ 101, folks. You made that decision. And so we make those decisions all the time. We make the time versus money decision. We make the convenience and comfort decision all the time. But folks get their panties in a bunch when someone happens to have more than they do. So when someone is able to make the decision that they'll fly private or they'll fly first class. I've heard people say, and guess what? When I was young and stupid, I said the same thing. And once again, when I was young and stupid, I said the same thing, like, oh, what difference does it make to fly first class? You know, you're on the same airplane, you're going to get there the same time as everybody else. Oh, yes, I was young and stupid. Once you've flown first class, it's just like somebody saying, well, I don't care about, you know, whether it's a Mercedes or you know, a beater or whatever like that kind of car, you know, a hoopty, as you will. It's all just getting from point A to point B. See, when I was young and stupid, I said that also. But I used to have a little raggedy car that had vinyl seats, that no air conditioning, and the heater kind of kicked out on me from time to time. And you know what happens when vinyl seats get old and crack? They start stabbing you. Yeah, that's what happens with vinyl seats. And then I messed around and rolled inside of a luxury vehicle, and I realized that my car really sucks. You know, and it's one of those things where as I progressed economically, I started recognizing the value of nicer things. I own nicer things now. They don't own me, but I do own nicer things. And you know what I realized is that from an economic standpoint, when I purchase something, right? If I'm purchasing a luxury vehicle, actually, let me take it back. When my wife and I got married, we did a destination wedding. And when we got married, we stayed at this fabulous resort that actually had multiple hotels on the resort. We stayed at the top of the line resort. And here's the thing, they had something like, I think the guy told me, they had like 900 employees for these 5 hotels that were part of this grand resort. But remember, 900 employees for 5 hotels. But 1/3 of them were at the top of the line one that I was staying at, that Tanya and I were staying at. So yes, we paid more, but they had more employees for the specific purpose of pampering us. So that when we took a drink and we put our drink down, moments after we put our drink down, our water glass was filled back up. We paid for that. And you know what? Here's the thing. The people whose job it was to refill my water glass were grateful to have that job. If you think otherwise, you don't understand economics. You don't understand the way the world actually is. You don't, especially in what some would call third world countries. I try to avoid using that term, but that is the term that has generally been used, so I'll use that. But especially in third world countries, it being employed to make sure somebody's water glass gets filled beats the heck out of what people had been doing in their family for centuries to eke out a living. So if it goes to something as extravagant as purchasing a yacht, people, you know, and if you listen to that, see, I was about to go off, POTUS 44, right? That guy, POTUS 44. Listen to people like him. During his administration, he was lambasting, lampooning, criticizing the rich. Now, mind you, when that individual left office, one of the first things he did was go hang out with Richard Branson on his like 250-foot yacht, right? That 250-foot yacht, I don't know what the exact cost it is, but I do know generally for some like 100-foot yacht, I was looking at this thing about what does it cost to run, to maintain a super yacht, basically a yacht in excess of 100 feet long. And I'll post a link to this video, but basically it was saying a general rule of thumb, this is not exact, it can be, you know, plus or minus, but by and large, it costs about 10% of the purchase price or the purchase value of a yacht, or the same thing for an airplane, to maintain that. Because you know what, if you have a 100-foot yacht, you ain't running it yourself, bruh. You know, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, so you own a 100-foot yacht, but you think your wife is scrubbing toilets? That ain't happening. You understand, a 100-foot yacht's going to cost you a good $10 million. I'm pretty certain that if you have enough money that you can spend $10 million to purchase a yacht, which I'm pretty sure you already have a home, which might be worth at least that $10 million. But I'm pretty certain that if you have enough money to purchase a $10 million yacht for your leisure, your wife is not scrubbing toilets. Your wife is not getting up and making you scrambled eggs in the morning, you know, and you're not piloting that yacht, right? So you have to have a crew. And it was saying that the average crew for a 100-foot yacht is about 5 crewmen. That includes a yacht captain, which they were saying is that the approximate payment, the average payment rather, for a yacht captain for a 100-foot yacht is about $9 grand a month, $9,000 a month. And that the average payment, and of course, if you're going to have that yacht, you need to have a first mate, chief engineer, right? And they said that that approximate cost is somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 grand a month is what you're paying your first mate crewman. And then you're typically going to have a chief stewardess who might also, stewardess who might also be the chef. And then you're typically going to have like 1 or 2 deckhands, right? And it was saying that the biggest cost for most, yacht owners is employees. Surprise, surprise, that's the same thing for almost every business. The biggest expense is your employees. So it was saying is that roughly having those 4 to 5 employees is going to run you about $250,000 a year. So here it is. You're employing people, highly specialized people. You don't just like come fresh out of high school, with no training or anything like that, and next thing you know, you're the chief engineer, or the chief steward, or the chef on a 100-foot yacht. That's not how it happens, ever. You have to work your way up. You're talking about what will be known as ultra high net worth individuals, which is typically people who have a net worth in excess of $10 million. They're not hiring some snot-nosed kid whose first job or only job so far has been, flipping burgers at McDonald's. You have to have passed a background test. You have to have some training and all like that before somebody's going to pay you to help run, which, by the way, you're also taking care of their family. They're not going to do that. But you know what? People make a pretty good living being a crew member on that yacht. People are able to kind of help feed their family. They're able to put money away. They're able to live their life as a result of being employees on that 100-foot yacht. The same thing goes for private aircraft. And I'll use the person that so many people love to hate, which, if his name makes you upset, I'll say it multiple times. Trump, 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 Trump. Right? If you hate him, I hope you just got like a migraine from me saying his name multiple times. But, with President Trump, he's had a private aircraft and a yacht. He sold his yacht a while ago, but he's had a private aircraft for a long time. He recently purchased the Boeing 757 jet that previously was owned by the guys who had owned Google, right? So he purchased their yacht, and then he had his personalized touches put on it, which, by the way, if you ever come to Washington, D.C., and there's a few other people like Chris Kling, I don't know if he's on here or not, but there's a few other people who visited, and my buddy Greg Durden who's come through, and you know what? Come to Washington, D.C. If you're a conservative, you know where I'm going to try to meet you? We're going to go to the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. because it is first class. They do everything first class. It's a beautiful hotel, and they do everything first class. And, here's the thing. I was watching this thing about, like, his private 757 and his captain and his head of aviation and all that who were working there. They were saying, yes, Mr. Trump is a very demanding, very particular employer. He likes everything to be a specific way. But he employs these people and pays them very well. They have jobs. Why? Because of a wealthy person. And so, when you raise taxes on those wealthy people, when you make it prohibitive for them to purchase a yacht, make it prohibitive for them to purchase an aircraft, you know what you're doing? You're not hurting them. They're still living their life. The thing is that they're not going to spend that money to purchase the yacht. And you know what happens? The yacht makers who employ however many people are going to cut back on people. See, you think because you've been indoctrinated with leftist, regressive, socialist ideology, you think that it's only the guy who works at the steel factory, right? Or, you think of the laborer at the steel factory or at the car factory or whatever like that. But it's not just them. Do you understand that the yachting industry, the global yachting industry, the last numbers I saw, Forbes magazine had it, were projected to be that by 2022, it was going to be a $74 billion global industry. Now, I don't know what the exact number is right now. I'll guesstimate and say, heck, it might be, I'm going to guess it's at least $50 billion. But by 2022, so basically you're talking about 4 years from now, it'll be up to $74 billion annually. And guess what? That means that tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people are employed in the yachting industry. Because remember, there has to be a ship's captain. There has to be a chief engineer. There has to be a chef. There has to be people who are crew members, engineers. There are the people who run marinas where the people dock their boats. All these people. And see, once again, if you've bought into the crap of leftism, they will tell you that I'm sitting here talking about trickle down, right? That we need to make sure the rich keep getting richer, because if they eventually get richer, they'll let it. No, shut up, okay? This is just simply economics. It's no different than, hey, guess what? I'm next door, or I'm near a organic food market, right? Now, once again, if you're a leftist, you know, or those yuppies who are like, oh, I only eat organic. Listen, I try to eat organic as much as possible. But it's funny how nobody sat there and said, oh, the growth of Whole Foods, right? All these other organic markets, you know, poor people can't afford to shop at Whole Foods. Although, listen, actually, they can now. It's become a lot cheaper to shop at Whole Foods. I'm not a big Jeff Bezos fan, but one of the benefits, and I've talked to many people at several of the Whole Foods areas Whole Foods in the area, they've said that since Jeff Bezos and Amazon purchased Whole Foods, the prices have dropped dramatically. They used to call Whole Foods Whole Paycheck. And I don't know how many of you who are listening have shopped at Whole Foods for a while, but yes, the prices have gone down dramatically. But before, shopping at Whole Foods, eating all that organic stuff was something only for the rich. Oh, wait a minute. You shopped at Whole Foods and you didn't consider yourself to be rich? Well, for the person who was struggling, the person who's making minimum wage, you shopping at Whole Foods, like I mentioned before with my youngest aunt compared to my older aunt, she looked at her older sister and said, oh, you're rich. Well, to the poor person, you shopping at Whole Foods, you're rich. Even to this day, with the prices being reduced, the average poor person cannot afford to shop at Whole Foods. They're shopping at your Giant or King Soopers, Piggly Wiggly, whatever the local grocery store is for you, and they're shopping and getting the lowest deals, just like people going through the dollar, getting a dollar menu at McDonald's. It's a luxury to purchase organic foods. And we can have a whole nother discussion about that. But here's the thing I realized is that, you know, because I was talking to my brother-in-law and we were talking about this. It's like, listen, our food industry is fascinating. That's a whole nother discussion, but like, it's an industry, right? Our food, and so there's so many manufactured foods, and quite frankly, most of them are not really good for you. I mean, if you really want to be healthy, you pretty much want to avoid anything that's in a box or plastic bag, right? But, you know, and you really want to try to eat organic. Tanya and I went to a local farmer's market and we bought an organic chicken. Holy crap. That chicken was like literally like 5 times more expensive than a non-organic chicken I can get at a grocery store, right? But we're trying to eat healthier because we're wealthy enough to be able to make that decision to try to eat more healthy food. But you know, when I was first getting out here and I was working on the Hill and I, you know, basically was living off of my savings and a small stipend from my congressman, and I was broke, you know what I was eating? Whatever I could eat. The cheapest chicken I could eat. Yeah, I was getting the cheap chicken thighs and all that, and they had all kind of fatty stuff on there, and I had to spend a lot more time cleaning that chicken. It was much more, you know, had a lot more junk in it. But you know what? When you're poor, that's what you do. See, I had time, I just didn't have money. Now I have more money and have less time, but I have more money, so I'll go and get the organic stuff. I'll go ahead and get the skinless, boneless stuff. And you know what? Somebody has a job skinning and deboning chicken. They're grateful that people like me can now afford to get boneless, skinless chicken. People are grateful to have a job working on a yacht. People are grateful to have a job working at a marina. People are grateful to have a job working at I forgot what they call it, Ford Air Base. I forgot the actual term, FOB, whatever, for where private aircraft are parked. People are grateful to have those jobs. And so, yes, they're servicing rich people. Is that trickle down economics? No, it's just economics. That's all it is to it. It doesn't matter whether it's somebody, you know, owning a private jet or someone purchasing organic foods at your local organic market or someone purchasing boneless, skinless chicken. That's a luxury, and it's all economics. See, these are the things that you were not taught in school. I wasn't taught in school. And it's still not taught you as adults. You have to go out there and seek it. And even for a lot of people, it's all around you, but you never stop to think about it. This is what I do. I mean, it's literally, this is how my mind works pretty much. I only sleep like 5 hours a night because my brain is going like this all the time. And I think about these things and I figure through those things. You start looking around, and I'm studying and constantly reading and being able to put those things together and say, hey, you know what? Let me do a video and real quick talk Econ 101 about the fact that people purchasing yachts and airplanes is not trickle down economics. It's just economics. And when you look around at your day-to-day life, you'll realize that you might be partaking of a particular luxury. Once again, going to a movie is a luxury. Oh, you didn't think so? It is. You don't have to go to a movie. It's a luxury. You don't need that to survive. Do you have a car with any extra features? That's a luxury. You know, and everybody who works at the auto manufacturer, who helps to make the car with all the extra bells and whistles, everybody, you don't have to go out to eat at a restaurant. It's a luxury. And those servers, those waitresses and waiters, they're happy to have that job because that's the economy. The economy works that way. It fills a demand. And because we have a demand-based economy, that's why our economy works well. It's like Adam Smith talked about the invisible hand. We have a demand economy, not a command economy. Command economies suck. They always fail. Without fail, they always fail. They can only last for so long, and everybody wants to think that America would do well with a command-based economy. And you know what? America could last for longer than anyone else with a command-based economy because we're a big enough fat cow for that, what would I call it? The parasitical idea of a command-based economy, of socialism. We're a fat enough cow that we would last longer than others. Oh, but we would die. We would still die if we tried to implement a command-based economy, if we tried to implement socialism like leftist, regressive, socialist-minded people, basically Democrats, want us to be. The best thing, the smartest thing is a demand-based economy. And you know what? Demand-based economies create what people would incorrectly call trickle-down economics. Because if there's a demand for a private jet, somebody's going to manufacture private jets. If there's actually a demand for remodeling private jets, which there is, there's businesses out there in places like Dallas, Fort Worth, out at Love Field, there's a company that all they do is they basically pimp out private jets. Remember that TV show Pimp My Ride on MTV? There's companies, there's businesses that all they do is they do wacky stuff to your car. You want your car to be on, bounce and everything like that? They'll do that. You want to put TV screens and all that in your car? They'll do that. Why? Because there's a there's a demand economy. It all makes sense. It's not trickle-down economics. It's just economics. So listen, I got to run, got to meet my wife, but always a pleasure talking to you. I hope this gave you something to think about. Please share it with any family and friends that you have. I hope it creates a topic of discussion. And, once again, I hope you go and explore economics the way I have and realize that economics is not a mathematical science, even though charts and graphs and equations are used to explain things. At the end of the day, economics is a social science. It is the science of the use of scarce resources. And when you understand that, once again, I wish that I had somebody explain these things to me when I was a lot younger. I probably would have went and pursued an economics degree if I had had knowledge of people like Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams and Milton Friedman and von Mises and all these other people. I would have pursued economics most likely as opposed to going with a business degree, or at least got that in conjunction with a business degree. So, gotta run. Take care. God bless.